Memphis is
That's the next city.
Deeply troubled. And the mayor is happy. He's a Democrat mayor. The mayor is happy. And the governor, Tennessee, the governor is happy. Deeply troubled. We're going to fix that just like we did Washington. I would have preferred going to Chicago. We're going to Memphis. I'm just announcing that now, and we'll straighten that out.
National Guard.
National Guard and anybody else we need. And by the way, we'll bring in the military, too, if we need it. But National Guard.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. Last week, Donald Trump declared war on Chicago, but after a coordinated resistance, he backed down. If you didn't see my interview with Senator Tammy Duckworth about that, go check it out. Now, President Trump has moved on to Memphis, having claimed that he has the mayor's support. That is a lie.
I want to be clear. I did not ask for the National Guard, and I don't think it's the way to drive down crime. However, that decision has been made.
This pattern is going to keep repeating itself. It's always going to be a blue city that he targets because his goal isn't reducing crime. There are plenty of red areas with higher crime rates. Donald Trump's objective is to provoke the kind of confrontation that will give him the excuse he's looking for to impose even more authoritarian measures. We are building up to the Insurrection Act. Count on it. In light of Trump's militarization of our cities and his flagrant abuse of our men and women in the National Guard for a fake law enforcement mission, I wanted to talk to someone who truly knows what it means to serve and protect. Officer Harry Dunn defended the United States Capitol on January 6th as a Capitol police officer. He has gone on to be a leading voice in the effort to tell the truth about what happened that day and about Donald Trump's culpability, and he now hosts the Clean Up on Aisle 45 podcast. I think you'll really appreciate his insights on Donald Trump and his attacks on our cities. Here's our conversation. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. I've got Harry Dunn back with me. This is a man who knows how to defend a city, who knows how to defend a country. He held the line on January 6th. That's how you all know Harry. I know him from Ukraine because we have been partners in crime in a literal war zone with a gun crew on a barge overlooking Kyiv. But man, Harry, what do you make of our president now threatening war against an American city, Chicago, after he did what he did to D.C.?
Ken, good to be with you again, man. And this is all, I would say head-scratching stuff, but we're at like hair-pulling out stuff right now. Like it's infuriating, and it's clear that Donald Trump has no real plan to make communities safe. No sustainable plan. He's just wanted to attack. And look, he went from the Department of Defense to Department of War. I mean, that is the dumbest, most aggressive thing ever. And that's not a sustainable measure for keeping communities safe. I am glad, though. I am glad, however, the difference that we're seeing was two main differences that we're seeing with Chicago that we did with D.C. Well, one, Chicago isn't under the rule of the federal government. D.C. obviously is. And also the leadership, the Governor Pritzker, is vowing to adamantly fight back, which he is showing, which we saw with Gavin Newsom do in California. Last week, they ruled about that he had Donald Trump in court and with the administration in court and Judge Breyer, I believe, ruled that Donald Trump cannot have a federal police force with him as the chief.
Yeah. I've talked to plenty of D.C. residents. There are people on my team who live in D.C. who say almost to a person that they feel less safe with ICE and the National Guard roaming the streets. Thank goodness they still make a distinction between ICE and the National Guard. We're in real trouble as a country if they begin to conflate the two. Yeah. But, the pushback I get when I go on conservative media is, well, crime has dropped in D.C. You know where crime is really low? North Korea. Right? You know where crime is really low? Pick your autocratic country. That is not, there are no carjackings in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan either, right? Sure. That is not the direction we want to head. We don't want our cities to turn into police states. We don't want our country to turn into a police state. And that's where Donald Trump wants to take us.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I think it's very important now from the Democratic side, or not even just the Democrat, but anybody who opposes this, to be very clear with their messaging and very clear about, we want safe communities. We are all for supporting our police, supporting our communities, but they go hand in hand. Uh, you have to be very clear, because like you just said, that's the argument that you're getting from the other side, to say, oh, well, look, crime, y'all don't want safe then if we're bringing it. No, but this isn't sustainable. People are safe now, like you said, because in North Korea, they're afraid. In the Middle East, they are afraid. I live in Maryland. I've been to DC twice since, and I used to go every day. I've been twice since the National Guard takeover. I'm not going in there. And fear is not a way to make safer communities. That's not sustainable, to scare people into behaving. That's not sustainable. I do believe that we should take, and that's why I said that Donald Trump's not serious about crime, because if it was, he would look at things that are sustainable, and having troops roam your cities with AR-15s and M4 rifles and military gear is not a sustainable thing or an efficient way to do things. I mean, we have clips that we saw of the military going around picking up trash and laying mulch. I mean, like, let's be strategic and let's be targeted if you really want to do something. But they're not serious about doing it. They're trying to scare their way and fearmonger their way into absolute authoritarian power. And we can't have that. I mean, just look at the image that Donald Trump, like you said, put it with Chicago, with the skyline on fire. I mean, that's what we want in this. No, that's not what we want. That's not what the communities want. That's not what Republicans or Democrats want. And this shouldn't even be a partisan issue right here. This should be, everybody should want safe communities, and everybody should want law enforcement and the National Guard used efficiently and effectively, and having them roam cities aimlessly is not the way to do it.
Hey everyone, it's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to say just how grateful I am for all of your support for this channel and for this show. We have a big reporting trip coming up to Ukraine. I could use your help. We have to cover the film crew, interpreters, fixers, security. It's a whole thing, but it is worth it to be able to share with you and others what is actually happening on the ground there. I just published a feature story in The Atlantic about my last trip, where I embedded with the drone unit at the front. Click the link below for the full article, and we'll be putting out more great fact-based reporting over Substack. Please consider subscribing. Everything I make from Substack and Patreon goes back into this show. Thanks for the help. It makes no sense to have the National Guard in the most highly visible places in Washington, D.C., and not the places that actually have higher crime rates, unless all you're trying to do is market an image. That's the tell. That's the giveaway. When you see the National Guard patrolling the National Mall, where all they have to do is mulch flower beds and rake up leaves, that's the giveaway.
Yeah. And also, we also need to be clear. No, we don't want to diminish the National Guard either. Like, we don't want to make them a pariah of the left or anybody that opposes this. No, we support our National Guard because they are there. They're supposed to be there when we need them. Hurricane Katrina comes to mind, or massive protests where local law enforcement can't handle it, and they ask for help. Oh, like January 6th. Yeah, that's when we needed a little bit of help like that. So let's, we're not here to villainize our National Guard, but you need to keep them out of this political warfare literal warfare that Donald Trump is trying to incite right here.
It is ironic, isn't it, that in the midst of changing the name of the DOD to the Department of War, we're using National Guardsmen in such a ridiculous, petty way, taking them away from their families so that they can go guard a frickin' Shake Shack in D.C. It really should put the lie to this notion that Donald Trump cares at all about American security. And the last point I'll make, tying this to ICE and immigration, when he says he's going after the worst of the worst, and that includes deporting 600 children back to countries that they have no memory of or that they fled because they were afraid, when that includes tackling gardeners
Yeah.
and hospitality workers. I mean,
Farmers,
it
yeah.
makes no sense.
Zero sense at all. And listen, like you just said, guarding Shake Shacks and stuff like that. Look, I think you could get overwhelming bipartisan support if he came with a comprehensive plan to make communities safe. And a lot of things that one thing, especially here in Washington, D.C., as a former police officer here, one of the things that frustrated communities and police officers alike were the amount of slap on the wrist that the Department of Justice would do, or on behalf of the elected officials in DC, decriminalizing X, Y, and Z, not punishing X, Y, and Z, like at all. So I think that's how you start some of the problem. You hold people accountable. But Donald Trump is not for accountability, which is why he pardoned over 1,500 insurrectionists on day one of his administration. So he's not serious about being tough on crime and cleaning up cities. And like I said, I think he could get overwhelming bipartisan support if he was actually serious about it and went about it in a serious way, instead of just taking a sledgehammer where you might need a screwdriver.
Yeah. Love hearing your perspective as always, Harry. Where can people find you online?
Oh, man. It's my Blue Sky, Libra Dunn 1. And my Substack is called Standing Our Ground. And also, I co-host a wonderful podcast with my friend Allison Gill Muller, she wrote, called Clean Up on Aisle 45. So check me out.
Awesome. We'll put all those links in the show notes, Harry. Good talking to you.
You too, Ken. Thanks a lot.